Welcome back to Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. It was debate night this week for Virginia's Attorney General's race, where the Republican incumbent Jason Miyares and Democrat Jay Jones had their one and only face-off. Throughout the debate, Miyares repeatedly brought up the texts and a reckless driving conviction, but he mainly focused on his track record as Attorney General, bringing violent crime down and lowering drug deaths. On the other hand, Jones focused on Miyares' allegiance to President Trump. A similar connection Democrats across the board are drawing, arguing that Miyares hasn't taken Trump to court over federal job losses and tariffs impacting Virginians. Morning Capitol Review is Dr. Stephen Farnsworth, a political science professor at the University of Mary Washington. Professor, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
We're always glad to have you. Not often is there a lot of hype leading up to a debate for candidates for Attorney General. This one was a little different. Your thoughts from last night?
Well, I think both candidates did what they wanted to do going into this debate. For Attorney General Miyares, the Republican, this was an opportunity to continue to talk about those texting scandals involving Jay Jones, the Democrat. That was expected, and it was a key part of the conversation. On the Democratic side, the conversation would be ideally to move beyond the conversation about those texts and talk, in the case of Jay Jones, to really focus on the extent to which Jason Miyares is a loyalist for President Trump, and to try to bring many voters' hostilities to Trump to this conversation. It was a much more policy-oriented debate than the gubernatorial debate previously in October.
How do you think Jay Jones handled the texting controversy?
Well, I think there isn't a lot of good ways to handle something like this. It was a pretty horrible statement. It's really a difficult environment to try to climb out of this kind of political hole that he's created for himself. In many ways, he followed the playbook of Bill Clinton back in the 1990s when there was that Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. What Jay Jones did was, of course, apologize, starting by that, offering up a conversation that started with that apology and how he was embarrassed and so on. And then he turned the tables on the opposing party in the same way that Bill Clinton did. And that created an opportunity to move beyond the texting scandal for him, to talk about the extent to which the Trump policies, which are not particularly popular in Virginia, of course, are going to be the way that voters should think about Miyares.
Obviously, there's early voting. Then there's the election next month. We know the news cycle changes, but is it really hard for Jay Jones to get past the texting?
Well, you can count on Republicans to talk about it at every opportunity. This is an extraordinarily useful self-inflicted wound for the Democrats that the Republicans can exploit, and they have been exploiting for 2 weeks now. I'm not sure that the conversation continues to focus on these texts for the next 2 weeks, but it's certainly clear that this topic has gotten a new lease on life, for at least for the next few days.
Well, Jason Miyares has a proven track record in Virginia. Is he in a position to even separate himself from the Trump administration in some ways?
Well, I think that is part of the Miyares strategy. In the conversation, of course, he didn't offer up anything to suggest that he had disagreements with the president. But what he did do is talk about those kinds of issues that he worked on during his first term as Attorney General. He pointed to the statistics that show decreased crime. He talked about the issues with respect to, particularly with fentanyl, and how Virginia is a safer place than it was 4 years ago. These are strategies, I think, to try to create a little bit of daylight between the Attorney General and the claim that he's simply a Trump clone.
Will Jay Jones try to ride the momentum of Spamberger?
Well, absolutely. I think that the best thing that Jay Jones has going for him in this election cycle is that this is an environment that is somewhat favorable to Democrats generically. The polling shows a support for the Democratic candidate for governor in the range of 7 to 10 points. And so that is not going to be the kind of margin that others on the ticket might get. But certainly, Jay Jones is hoping that there will be if you will, a coattail effect where the popularity of the Democratic candidate for governor can help his campaign. We'll see how much that actually happens. I tend to think that that there will be some Democrats who will say, maybe vote for the Democrats at the top of the ticket, but leave that Attorney General line blank because of dissatisfaction, disgust, if even, on the part of some Democrats about what Jay Jones wrote in those texts.
Professor Farnsworth, thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you.